Hello and welcome to this exploring session. Welcome back. This is part 2 of our look at this most pleasant comedy, the story so far. 65 million years ago, dinosaurs ruled the world. And one of the greatest of those was, of course, the great crested Mucedorus rex. Which would try to attract a mate by tearing the heads off bears and offering it to the female of the species, and then run off while disguised as a shepherd. Never mind, I'll stop doing that now. So yes, we're doing Mucedorus, we're doing the second half of the play, and we are looking at scenes 9 to the end. This is a play with a long textual history. It has had scenes added to it over time, and there's a certain amount of flux and changes that we will expound upon a bit towards the end of this session. There is one scene in the well, I say it's not in the middle, somewhere in the this half, which was added later, and points will be awarded for those who can guess which scene it is that was added at a later date. No points for the very, very end. So, without further ado, we're going to go through who is going to be joining us through Mucedorus today. So, we have reading that Mucedorus himself is...
Hello, my name's Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional performer based in Brighton in the UK.
And reading Segasto and Anselmo today is...
Hello, my name is Lynn Freitas. I'm a writing teacher. I live in the northwestern United States.
And reading Bremo and various kings, or all at once or one at a time.
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk in the UK.
Reading Amadine, Roderigo and Messenger today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian. I'm in Yorkshire, and I'm not entirely sure what this play's about.
Really? Love. It's about love, he said. Reading today, Old Woman, the marvellously named Rumbelo. Collen and Envy is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I really want to hear more about this dinosaur version that you've got going on. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, Mucedorus rex has a natural predator in Segastosaurus, which is always coming for it. I could go on for longer, but I clearly lost the room. So, reading Mouse, the clown in the play, and the personification of comedy is...
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe, scholar of early modern drama based in Lancaster in the UK.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading a spare king later on when there are two kings on stage at the same time. We can't follow the original doubling schemes that are available for this play because we are a slightly smaller group today than is necessary, but we're going to have a crack through it anyway. It is quite contractable for the most part. So without further ado, we are going to leap into what we have down as scene 9. Number of scenes vary depending on which version you are looking at, and enter Amadine Solus.
God grant my long decay procures no harm, nor this my tarrying frustrate my presence. My Mucedorus surely stays for me and thinks me over long. At length I come, my present promise to perform. Ah, what a thing is firm, unfeigned love! What is it which true love dares not attempt? My father he may make, but I must match. Segasto loves, but Amadine must like where she likes her best. Compulsion is a thrall. No, no, the hearty choice is all in all. The shepherd's virtue Amadine esteems, and what methinks my methinks my shepherd is not come. I muse at that. The hour is sure at hand. Well, here I'll rest till Mucedorus come.
And she sits down. Enter Bremo, looking about. There is no indication of whether he's still got his massive club. Hastily, he takes hold of her.
a happy prey. Now, Bremo, feed on flesh. Dainties, Bremo, dainties, thy hungry paunch to fill. Now glut thy greedy guts with lukewarm blood. Come fight with me. I long to see thee dead.
How can she fight that weapons cannot wield?
What? Canst not fight? Then lie thou down and die.
What, must I die?
What needs these words? My blood.
Yet pity me, and let me live a while.
No pity I. I'll feed upon thy flesh. I'll tear thy body piecemeal, joint from joint.
Oh, now I want my shepherd's company.
I'll crush thy bones betwixt two oaken trees.
Haste, shepherd, haste, or else thou comest too late.
I'll suck the sweetness from thy marrow bones.
Oh, spare to shed my guiltless blood.
With this my back will I beat out thy brains. Down, down, I say, prostrate thyself upon the ground.
Then, Mucedorus, farewell, my hoped joys, farewell. Yea, farewell life, and welcome present death.
And she kneels.
To thee, O God, I yield my dying ghost.
Now, Bremo, play thy part. Now, what sudden chance is this? My limbs do tremble, and my sinews shake. My unweakened arms have lost their former force. Oh, Bremo, what a foil thou hast been, that yet at no time ever wast afraid to dare the greatest gods to fight with thee.
He strikes.
And now want strength for one down-driving blow? Oh, how my courage fails when I should strike.
Oh, it looks like we may have lost Alan there. Yes, looks. Alan, you have returned to us. Are you there?
Yes, that's the second time that Tinternet has crashed in the last 2 minutes.
Shall we continue and hope for the best? If we go from after he strikes, presumably quite weakly.
Right. And now want strength for my one down driving blow. Oh, how my courage fails when I should strike. Some new-come spirit abiding in my breast saith, spare her, Bremo, spare her, do not kill. Shall I spare her, which never spared any? To it, Bremo, to it, essay again. I cannot wield my weapons in my hand. Methinks I should not so strike so fair a one. I think her beauty hath bewitched my force, or else with me altered natured course. Ay, woman, wilt thou live in the woods with me?
Fain would I live, yet loath to live in woods.
Thou shalt not choose, it shall be as I say. Therefore, follow me.
And they enter a slightly late Mucedorus Solus. Muted at the moment.
Sorry, Robert, there we go. Technology. It was my will an hour ago and more, as was my promise for to make return. But other business hindered my presence. It is a world to see when man appoints, and purposely one certain thing decrees, how many things may hinder his intent. What one would wish, the same is farthest off. But yet the appointed time cannot be past, nor hath her presence yet prevented me. Well, here I'll stay and expect the coming.
And they cry within all together now, hold him,
Hold him, stay here, hold!
Someone or other is pursued, no doubt. Perhaps some search for me. 'Tis good to doubt the worst. Therefore, I will be gone.
And he exits. Cry within continues. Enter Mouse the Clown with a pot.
Hold him, hold him, hold him, hold. Here's a stir indeed. Here came you after the crier. I was set close at Mother Nip's house, and there I called for 3 pots of ale, as 'tis the manner of us courtiers. Well now, sirrah, I've taken the maidenhead of 2 of them, and now, as I was lifting up the 3rd to my mouth, There came, hold him, hold him, hold him. Well, I could not tell whom to catch hold on. Sure, I caught one. The chance may be in this pot. I'll see. Mass, I cannot see him yet. Well, I'll look a little further. Mass, he is a little slave if he be here. He is nobody. All this goes well yet. But if the old trot should come for her pot, aye, marry, there's the matter. Yeah, I care not. I'll face her out and call her old rusty, dusty, musty, fusty, crusty, firebrand, and worse than all that. And I'll so face her out of her pot. But soft, here she comes.
And enter the old woman.
You knave! Where's my pot, you knave?
God, look with your pot. Come not to me for your pot. Do a good
Thou liest, thou knave, thou hast my pot.
You lie and you say it. I, your pot. Know what I'll say?
Why, what wilt thou say?
Say I have him, and thou darest.
Why, thou knave, thou hast not only my pot, but my drink unpaid for.
You lie. Like an old, I will not say whore.
Dost thou call me whore? I'll cap thee for my pot.
Cap me, and thou darest. Search me whether I have it or no.
And she searcheth him, and he drinketh over her head, and casts down the pot. She stumbleth at it, and then they fall together by the ears. She takes her pot and goes out. Enter Segasto.
How now, Cyril, what's the matter?
Flies, master, flies.
Flies? Where are they?
Oh, here, master, all about your face.
Why, thou liest. I think thou art mad.
Master, I have killed a dung cartful at the least.
Go to, Sirrah. Leaving this idle talk, give ear to me.
Give you one of my ears. Not an you were 10 masters.
Why, sir, I bade you give ear to my words.
I tell you, I will not be made a curtal for no man's pleasure.
I tell thee, attend what I say. Go thy ways straight and rear the whole town.
Now, rear the town? Well, even go yourself. It's more than I can do. What, do you think I can rear a town that can scarce rear a pot of ale to my head? I should rear a town, should I not?
Go to the constable and make privy search, for the shepherd is run away with the king's daughter.
Is the shepherd run away with the king's daughter, or is the king's daughter run away with the shepherd?
I cannot tell, but they are both gone together.
What a fool is she to run away with a shepherd? I think I'm a little handsomer man than a shepherd myself. But tell me, master, must I make a privy search, or search in the privy?
Why, dost thou think they will be there?
I cannot tell.
Well then, search everywhere. Leave no place unsearched for them.
And Segasto exits.
Oh, now am I in office. Now will I to that old firebrand's house. Will not leave one place unsearched. Nay, I'll to her ale stand and drink as long as I can stand. And when I've done, I'll let out all the rest to see if he be not hid in the barrel. If I find him not there, I'll to the cupboard. I'll not leave one corner of her house unsearched. In faith, the old crust. I will be with you now.
End of scene. Lots and lots of interesting business going on there. Let's start at the top. It's you know, typical. You know, I don't know why she waits for him. You know, if he's going to stand her up by being late, I mean, seriously, just walk,
Yeah.
You know, she does not have much good luck with woods.
True. True.
For those who don't know, the play, at least in its original iteration, opens with a bear attack, and she gets very attacked, and here she gets attacked by this big chap, Bremo, who we met earlier, who was a massive club. He's got a massive cudgel.
He's a cannibal.
Well, darling.
And has anger issues.
Anger
He's
issues.
got anger management issues.
Yep.
And all this, talking about eating, and there may be an alternative interpretation on that. I liked vampires. Whoever said that in the chat. But yes, there's some.
Yeah, it was both Eric and myself, I think.
Yeah. But it's that thing of by her kneeling and praying, he suddenly has no power to, so he just has to drag her away. So yeah, any thoughts on Bremo, who just wants a fight? That's just purely what he's here for. He's here for the fighting. Helen first.
This is one of these occasions. It's like unicorns and stuff. You come in contact with a virtuous maiden and suddenly you're utterly defeated by the sheer virtue of the. This has never happened to him before.
Yeah, he's always
He
able to
must
just
be incredibly virtuous.
Yeah. Lynn.
And her appearance as well. I think her beauty hath bewitched my force, or else in me altered nature's course. So he's charmed by her appearance. She's so beautiful, can't kill her.
Yeah, he's going to just take her home.
Yeah.
Because that's not in any way more disturbing.
I'd like to point out that this does not actually happen in real life.
Does it not?
No.
No, really?
No. It is extraordinarily rare for a cannibal rapist attacker to be suddenly overcome by virtue and beauty.
Drama has lied to me.
I know. It's like to us all, Robert. Oh.
Well, I think there is an important point. People do talk about the lie to get a greater truth. When it comes to art, sometimes art just lies for the sake of it being fun. And that's what we have here. Mucedorus turns up late to the date and misses everything, but he's being chased. Hue and cry after him, leaving Mouse to do his stand-up routine. Nice to see a bit more Mouse.
Yay.
It's nicely done, by the way, Stephen. I do like the pot business. The size of your pot really sold that as well.
Complete coincidence, but there we go.
And it leads to physical business, which I really like. The whole stuff with the drinking. She's looking down, so he drinks, and being able to do that kind of back and forth. It's really nice. They fall together by the ears.
Anybody know what that means?
Is that grabbing each other and scrabbing?
Wrestling match, I suspect.
As they try to get the pot.
Yeah.
And the way Mouse gets to insult her by saying he won't insult her. Interesting way of working there. But yeah, nice little bit of standalone business in a play that is not particularly motivated by plot a lot of the time. Helen.
I think it's very odd that Mucedorus doesn't know whether or not the hue and cry is for him. And it isn't actually apparently raised until... I mean, Mouse hears the hue and cry, and then he's told by Segasto to raise the hue and cry, if you see what I mean. So this instruction comes after the event. And Mucedorus, someone or other, is pursued, no doubt. I mean, he's completely relaxed about it. Ooh, perhaps it's for me. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any urgency there.
I don't think the clown ever has any urgency.
No, that's Mucedorus, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mucedorus is completely... He assumes at first that it must be someone else. I suppose this is because he's a prince. and princes have a imagine that they don't get hue and cried.
Yeah. And Segasto, once again, in a situation of, I mean, Mouse is obviously going up in the world. He's, he's sort of talking about his increased status with Segasto. I don't know what Segasto is getting out of this arrangement, because he's a really useless servant.
Segasto says, a merry servant makes a merry master. And being a naturally melancholy sort of person, he's using Mouse as a therapeutic device.
I don't think it's working.
No.
Alan?
I'm just wondering, in fact, whether he's just recruited a servant to increase the size of his entourage and therefore perceived status.
Could be. I mean, he picked him up off the street.
Well, quite. But nobody claimed he was bright.
Well, I mean, it is one of the things. Possibly we're trying to dig too deeply into a tale that is wafer thin. I mean, this is not trying to be deep, and maybe we're trying to think too heavily into why things are happening. They're happening because that's the plot, and it's the fun we have and the people we meet along the way. That's what matters.
It's a story.
You're allowed to disagree with me on that point if you like. Any other thoughts before we move on to scene 10? Nope. Okay, scene 10. Sound music. There's some music. There isn't any music. There would be music. Enter the King of Valencia, Anselmo, Roderigo, and Lord Barachius. Oh, I don't think he says anything. Don't know where that came from. Okay. Enter King and various lords.
Enough of music. It but adds to torment. Delights to vexed spirits are as dates set to a sickly man, which rather cloy than comfort. Let me entreat you to entreat no more.
Let yon strings sleep. Have done there.
And the music ceases.
Mirth to a soul disturbed, his embers turned, which sudden gleam with molestation, but sooner lose their sight for it. 'Tis gold bestowed upon a rioter, which not relieves but murders him. 'Tis a drug given to the healthful, which infects not cures. How can a father that has lost his son, a prince both wise, virtuous, and valiant, take pleasure in the idle acts of time? No, till Mucedorus I shall see again. All joy is comfortless, all pleasure pain.
Your son, my lord, is well.
I pray thee, speak that thrice.
The prince your son is safe.
Oh, where, Anselmo? Surfeit me with that.
In Aragon, my liege, at his departure, he bound my secrecy by his affection's love not to disclose it. But care of him and pity of your age makes my tongue blab what my breast vowed, concealment.
Sorry. Thou not deceivest me? I ever thought thee, but what I find thee now, an upright loyal man. But what desire or young-fed humour nursed within the brain drew him so privately to Aragon?
A forcing adamant, love mixed with fear and doubtful jealousy, whether report gilded a worthless trunk or Amadine deserved her high extolment.
See our provision be in readiness. Collect us followers of the comeliest hue for our chief guardians. We will thither wend. Crystal eyes of heaven shall not thrice wink, nor the green flood 6 times his shoulders turn, till we salute the Aragonian king. Music, speak loudly. Now the season's apt. For former dollars are in pleasure wrapped.
And exit the King of Valencia and Lord Barachius, who, was a major contributor to that scene. Not a long scene, introducing us to Daddy Mucedorus, who we don't think we've met before. Any quick thoughts on this one? I don't think there's much to say about this. It's very much plot, reminding us of stuff that happened very, very early on. Eric first.
Sorry, I was just going to say about the rhyme that we discussed yesterday, that like the rhyme seems to cue the exits as well as the entrances again.
Yes, very much an end stop there to just say, and now the scene is over, guys, and exit.
Yeah. One hypothesis about that the rhyme couplet at the end of a scene, I mean, it's partly for the audience to signal to them that we're moving on, but there are some people who think that that was also kind of a cue for actors who were waiting in the wings, that when you heard that rhyme couplet, you knew that the scene shift was there and you might have an entrance.
It's sort of borne out by the scene Eric was just referencing from yesterday, where there were a couple of these in quick succession that seemed quite pointed to do with entrances and exits in a scene. So it seems to bear that out. It's partly a cueing device. Helen, you were going to say something earlier.
Yeah, but fortunately, I've discovered that I was wrong.
Excellent. Other thoughts about this scene before we move forward?
Just a question about yesterday. Did we get any motivation for Mucedorus's desire for secrecy? Or is that
Nope.
just...
I don't think there was any meaningful.
Sorry.
He just quite fancied her and was going to go in secret.
Cosplay adventure.
Yeah. I think there was something about his perhaps keeping it a bit from his dad. Hence the fact that Anselmo doesn't, because he tells Anselmo what's going on. And Anselmo says, well, I'm not going to tell, I can't tell you here. So it is a sort of nice pickup from earlier. Okay, unless anyone's burning with desire to say more, we will go into scene 11. So, enter Mucedorus to disguise himself.
Now, Mucedorus, whither wilt thou go? Home to thy father, to thy native soil, or try some long abode within these woods? Well, I will hence depart and hie me home. What, hie me home, said I? That may not be. In Amadine rests my felicity. Then, Mucedorus, do as thou didst decree. Attire thee hermit-like within these groves. Walk often to the beach and view the well. Make settles there and seat thyself thereon. And when thou feelest thyself to be athirst, then drink a hearty draught to Amadine. No doubt she thinks on thee, and will one day come pledge thee at this well. Come, habit, thou art fit for me.
And so he disguises himself.
No shepherd now, a hermit I must be. Methinks this fits me very well. Now must I learn to bear a walking staff, and exercise some gravity withal.
And enter the clown.
Is through the woods, to look out a shepherd and a stray king's daughter. But soft, who have we here? What art thou?
I am an hermit.
An emmet. I never saw such a big emmet in all my life.
I tell you, sir, I am an hermit, one that leads a solitary life within these woods.
Ah, I know thee now. Thou art he that eats up all the hips and haws. We could not have one piece of fat bacon for thee all this year.
Thou dost mistake me, but I pray thee, tell me, what dost thou seek in these woods?
What do I seek? For a stray king's daughter run away with a shepherd.
A stray king's daughter? Run away with a shepherd? Wherefore? Canst thou tell?
Yes, that I can. 'Tis this. My master and Amadine, walking one day abroad, nearer to these woods than they were used, about what? I cannot tell, but toward them comes running a great bear. Now, my master, he played the man and ran away, and Amadine crying after him. Now, sir, comes me a shepherd and he strikes off the bear's head. Now, whether the bear were dead before or no, cannot tell. For bring 20 bears before me and bind their hands and feet, I'll kill them all. Now, ever since, Amadine hath been in love with the shepherd, and for goodwill she's even run away with the shepherd.
What manner of man was her? Canst describe him unto me?
Describe him? Aye, I warrant you that I can. It was a little low, broad, tall, narrow, big, well-favoured fellow, jerkin a white cloth and buttons of the same cloth.
Thou describes him well. But if I chance to see any such, pray you, where shall I find you? Or what's your name?
My name is called Master Mouse.
Oh, Master Mouse. I pray you, what office might you bear in the court?
Marry, sir, I am rusher of the stable.
Oh, usher of the table.
No, I say rusher. I'll prove my office good for look, sir. When any comes from under the sea or so, and a dog chance to blow his nose backward, then with a, with a whip I give him the good time of day and straw rushes presently. Therefore, I am a rusher. High office, I promise you.
But where shall I find you in the court?
Why, where it is best being, either in the kitchen eating or in the buttery drinking. But if you come, I'll provide for thee a piece of beef and brew it knuckle deep in fat. Pray you, take pains. Remember Master Mouse?
And exit Master Mouse.
Aye, sir, I warrant I will not forget you. Oh, Amadine, what should become of thee? Whither shouldst thou go so long unknown? With watch and ward each passage is beset. Doubtless she hath lost herself within these woods, and wandering to and fro she seeks the well, which yet she cannot find. Therefore I will seek her out.
And exit Mucedorus. Enter Bremo and Amadine.
Amadine, how like you Bremo and his woods?
As like the woods of Bremo's cruelty, though I were dumb and could not answer him, the beasts themselves would with relenting tears bewail thy savage and unhuman deeds.
My love, why dost thou murmur to thyself? Speak louder, thy Bremo hears thee not.
My Bremo? No, the shepherd is my love.
Have I not saved thee from sudden death, given thee leave to live, that thou mightst love? And dost thou whet me on to cruelty? Come kiss me, sweet, for all my favours past.
I may not, Bremo, therefore pardon me.
See how she flings away from me. I will follow and give a rend to her. Deny my love, thou worm of beauty. I will chastise thee. Come, come, prepare thy head upon the block.
Oh, spare me, Bremo. Love should limit life, not be made a murderer of himself. If thou wilt glut thy loving heart with blood, encounter with the lion or the bear. And like a wolf, prey not on the lamb.
Why then dost thou repine at me? If thou wilt love me, thou shalt be my queen. I will crown thee with a complet made of ivory, and make the rose and lily wait on thee. I'll rend the burly branches from the oak, to shadow thee from burning sun. Trees shall spread themselves where thou dost go, and as they spread, I'll trace along with thee.
You may. For who but you?
Thou shalt be fed with quails and partridges, with blackbirds, larks, thrushes, and nightingales. Thy drink shall be goat's milk, crystal water, distilled from the fountains and the clearest springs, and all the dainties that the woods afford. I'll freely give thee to obtain thy love.
You may. For who but you?
The day I'll spend to recreate my love, with all the pleasures that I can devise. And in the night I'll be thy bedfellow, and lovingly embrace thee in mine arms.
One may, so may not you.
The satyrs and the wood nymphs shall attend on thee, and lull thee asleep with music's sound, And in the morning, when thou dost awake, the lark shall sing good morrow to my queen. And while he sings, I'll kiss my Amadine.
You may, for who but you?
When thou art up, the wood lanes shall be strawed with violets, cowslips, and sweet marigolds for thee to trample and trace upon. And I will teach thee how to kill the deer, to chase the hart, and how to rouse the roe, if thou wilt loath to love and honour me.
You may, for who but you?
And enter Mucedorus.
Welcome, sir. An hour ago I looked for such a guest. Be merry, wench, we'll have a frolic feast. Here's flesh enough to suffice us both. Say, sirrah, wilt thou fight, or dost thou yield to die?
I want a weapon. How can I fight?
Thou want'st a weapon? Why then thou yieldst to die.
I say not so. I do not yield to die.
Thou shalt not choose. I long to see thee dead.
Yet spare him, Bremo, spare him.
Away, I say, I will not spare him.
Yet give me leave to speak.
Thou shalt not speak.
Yet give him leave to speak for my sake.
Speak on, but be not over long.
In time of yore, when men, like brutish beasts, did lead their lives in loathsome cells and woods, and wholly gave themselves to witless will, a rude, unruly rout, then man to man became a present prey, then might prevailed, the weakest went to wall. Right was unknown, for wrong was all in all. As men thus lived in this great outrage, behold, one Orpheus, as poets tell, and them for rudeness unto reason brought, who led by reason some forsook the woods. Instead of caves, they built them castles strong. Cities and towns were founded by them then. Glad were they that they found such ease, and in the end they grew to perfect amity, weighing their former wickedness. They termed the time wherein they lived then a golden age, a goodly golden age. Now, Bremo, for so I hear thee called, if men which lived tofore as thou dost now, wildly in wood addicted oil to spoil, returned were by worthy Orpheus means, let me, like Orpheus, cause thee to return from murder, bloodshed, and like cruelty. What? Should we fight before we have a case? No. Let us live and love together faithfully. I'll fight for thee.
Fight for me or die? Or fight, or else thou diest.
Hold, Bremo, hold.
Away, I say, thou troublest me.
You promised me to make me your queen.
I did. I mean no less.
You promised me that I should have my will.
I did. I mean no less.
Then save this hermit's life, for he may save us both.
At thy request I'll spare him, but never any after him. Say, hermit, what canst thou do?
I'll wait on thee, sometime upon thy queen. Such service shalt thou shortly have as Bremo never had.
And they exit. What a fascinating scene. I really love the back and forth. I love the aside lines that are repetitious. Bremo picking up those repetitions later on as well. I love the fact he's please listen to me. No, I'm not going to listen to you. Please, my darling, listen to him. Oh, all right. Don't be too long, though. Massive speech.
Yeah.
Massive, florid, over-the-top speech. It's fabulous.
He's
So
been fishing for the
ridiculous.
thumbprint.
Bremo's a poet.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's something about him which is sort of, I love her and hug her and squeeze her and make her all mine. There's something sort of weirdly strange and about him. I'm finding fascinating. Other thoughts? Yes, Lynn.
There's so much.
Yeah.
That, I mean, yeah, Bremo's a poet. This little this little poem that he recites, sort of interrupted by Amadine's asides, it's lovely. Their idyllic life that he's imagining together, eating delicacies and walking on flowers and waking to the lark, and it's so lovely, and it's so delicate, and it's so Bremo-like.
Yeah,
then
they found his inner depth, his inner soul.
Yeah, love transforms us. And then Mucedorus's little story about how Orpheus basically created civilization, and is that metaphor trying to say that art creates civilization? The difference between barbarism and civilization is art and music.
Yeah, and of course we come off from a scene with Mouse and Mucedorus. Mucedorus, of course, is now in a different disguise, obviously, to throw off his pursuers. He's now disguised as a hermit. And Mouse comes on to recount his own adventures back at him, just in case anyone turned up late, I suppose. It sort of has a dramatic function, but it's an interesting recap. Yeah, Helen.
Should we assume that Amadine has not seen through Mucedorus's disguise?
That's a question, yeah.
I mean, she's just saving the hermit's life because she doesn't want him to be dismembered, roasted, and served up for her breakfast.
I think it's a reasonable. Yeah, it's a reasonable call. It's not the room service she has in mind, really, is it?
I must admit, I'm getting the impression that we've got another Princess Nice but dim.
I don't know if she's dim. I mean, she's, what else is she going to do?
She's still alive.
Yeah, she's working. She's working this giant for all he's worth at the moment.
And in the scene before, she was sort of zipping in and out amongst the trees as he kept on trying to lay hold on her.
No, I'm quite impressed with Amadine on the whole. She's functioning quite well.
Victim of the patriarchy, though. Definitely a victim of the patriarchy.
Oh yes,
she shouldn't have to be doing all this smarming.
No. But there just seems to be something about these woods. These woods are just not a good place to go. Okay, let's move on to scene 12, unless anyone's bursting to leap in there. Enter Segasto the clown and my favouritely named character, enter Rumbelo.
Come, sirs, what shall I never have you find out Amadine and the shepherd?
And I've been through the woods, and I could see nothing but an emmet.
Why, I see 1,000 emmets. Thou meanest a little one.
Yea, that emmet that I saw was bigger than thou art.
Bigger than I? What a fool have you to your man. I pray you, master, turn him away.
But dost thou hear, was he not a man?
I think he was, for he said he did lead a salt seller's life about the woods.
Thou would say a solitary life about the woods?
Yeah, I think it was so, indeed.
I thought what a fool thou art.
Thou art a wise man. Why, he did nothing but sleep since he went.
But tell me, Mouse, how did he go?
In a white gown, with a white hat on his head, and a staff in his hand.
I thought so. It was a hermit that walked a solitary life in the woods. Well, get you to dinner, and after, never leave seeking till you bring some news of them, or I'll hang you both.
And exit Segasto, boo hiss.
Now, Rumbelo, what shall we do now?
Faith, go home to dinner and afterwards sleep.
Why, then thou wilt be hanged.
For faith, I care not, for I know I shall never find them. Well, I'll once more abroad, and if I can't find them, I'll never come home again.
I tell thee what, Rumbelo, thou shalt go in at one end of the wood, and I at the other, and we will meet both together in the midst.
Content. Let's away to dinner.
And they exit, and I don't think we ever see Rumbelo ever again. We didn't meet him before. He's just there to be a sounding board for the mouse there. For the listeners at home, emmets are ants, apparently, according to a footnote I just read. So when they're talking about meeting something very, very small and talking about no, he was a man, it's a really forced gag on the hermit line, and it's quite a difficult one to figure out how we would make an audience get that gag. There's a lot of these sort of semi-pun things that Mouse is doing that I'm not quite sure how we get across because of the shift of language and meaning. They're structurally quite good, but they're quite difficult to get across. I like the salt cellars. That one came across. I quite like that. It's the way Segasto has reached a point where he can translate mouse speak. He's met him long enough. Alan?
I'm just wondering how we avoid getting the Gandalf reference in.
I don't have a problem with getting the Gandalf reference.
The hermit in a white coat, white cape, white hat, and a staff.
Yeah, my precious. I think considering the tone of this play, I have no problem with that kind of textual crossover leaking anywhere. I think that's fine. Other thoughts on just generally? We're up to scene 12 now, by the way. So, if any scenes so far that you feel you could remove, if you want to start thinking about one that might have been added later, do you have a nominee? Helen?
10.
You nominate 10. Excellent. Any? We haven't finished obviously yet, so this game is ongoing. You may find a better or worse candidate. Other numbers are available. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. 10.
Alan?
Whichever the one was that had the Daddy King in it.
10.
Yes.
10.
And I think I'll put. I think yes, you're right. Absolutely, it's 10 because it connects with the opening of the play that was added later. So it is the most logical. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense. So it is part of that. So well done, everyone. Thank you for playing.
Did we get a prize?
No, I was lying. So
Bad call, Robert.
any additional thoughts about Mouse Segasto? I mean, it's interesting. Segasto just lost. He's just going. I've just had enough. He's just throwing threats out now, isn't he? I've just get it done, or I'll hang you.
It's a good plan, though. One goes to one end of the wood and the other to the other.
Depends on the shape of the wood,
in the middle.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can almost see that as the pantomime Broker's Men, can't you? Backing through the woods and suddenly colliding butt to butt.
Well, that's basically how they encountered the bear. The opening Mouse it basically walks backwards, saying, "I'll walk backwards so that I won't avoid seeing the bear." And of course, the bear's coming behind him, and he trips over the bear, or vice versa. I'm not quite sure how that business works. So yeah, we've got a lot of that. I think it's on that sort of level, this kind of play. Eric.
I was just going to say that I like that Rumbelo is just like resigned. He wants his food. He doesn't really care about this. It's basically sort of what's called like sort of bringing out Mouse's hunger, I guess, because in the previous scene, Mouse was all about, oh yeah, I'll bring you like all this stuff covered in fat and that kind of stuff to Mucedorus, and sort of Rumbelo just echoes that, and he's like, oh yeah, we'll go to dinner now. It's like, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, let's go.
They're very much cut from the same cloth. We didn't cover Rumbelo yesterday. Stephen, did you want to mention anything on Rumbelo there?
Well, it was just at the Globe about 10 years ago, a play which will remain nameless, which was had a major festive element, sang a song called Helen Toe at the beginning of the acts, beginning of the halves. And the second line is how Anto, jolly Rumbelo. And then it's kind of summaries are coming in sort of song. So I'm wondering if that name has got an association with festivity of some kind. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I thought people might not be aware of the song.
It does ring a bell now that you actually said it. That, or at least the way it scans. So,
It goes back to 16th century Cornwall.
Excellent.
Or is it just showing yet another rustic?
Yeah. Well, it's Rumbelo is literally here for this scene. He's got half a dozen lines. He doesn't really have that much of an interior life, I suspect. That might be unfair. Okay, let's move on to scene 13 and enter Mucedorus Solus.
Unknown to say, hang on, am I on? No,
Yes.
I am. Okay, yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Had a weird glitch then. Sorry, guys. Unknown to any here within these woods, with bloody Bremo do I lead my life. The monster, he doth murder all he meets. He spareth none, and none doth him escape. Who would continue? Who but only I, in such a cruel cutthroat's company? Yet Amadine is here. How can I choose? Ah, silly soul. How oftentimes she sits and sighs and calls, "Come, shepherd, come. Sweet Mucedorus, come and set me free." When Mucedorus' presence stands her by. But here she comes.
And enter Amadine.
What news, fair lady, as you walk these woods?
Our hermit, none but bad, and such as thou knowest.
How do you like your Bremo in his woods?
Not my Bremo, nor Bremo's woods.
And why not yours? Methinks he loves you well.
I like him not. His love to me is nothing worth.
Lady, in this methinks you offer wrong, to hate the man that ever loves you best.
Hermit, I take no pleasure in his love, neither doth Bremo like me best.
Pardon my boldness, lady, sith we both may safely talk now out of Bremo's sight. Unfold to me, if you so please, the full discourse, how, when, and why you came into these woods, and fell into this bloody butcher's hands.
Hermit, I will. Of late, a worthy shepherd I did love.
A shepherd, lady? Sure, a man unfit to match with you.
Hermit, 'tis true, and when we had...
Stay there. The wild man comes. Refer the rest until another time.
And enter Bremo.
What secret tale is this? What whispering have we here? Villain, I charge thee tell thy tale again.
If needs I must, lo, here it is again. When as we both had lost the sight of thee, it grieved us both, but specially the queen, who in thy absence ever fears the worst, yet some lesser mischance before your royal grace. Shall my sweet Bremo wander through the woods, toil to and fro to redress my wants, hazard his life and all to cherish me? I like not this, quoth she, and therefore she craved to know of me. If I could teach her handle weapons well, my answer was, I had small skill therein, but glad, most mighty king, to learn of thee, and this was all.
What so? None can dislike of this. I'll teach you both to fight. But first, my queen, begin. Here, take this weapon. See how thou canst use it.
This is too big. I cannot wield it in my arm.
If so, we'll have a knotty crabtree staff for thee. But Sirrah, tell me, what sayest thou?
With all my heart, I willing am to learn.
Then take my staff and see how thou canst wield it.
First, teach me how to hold it in my hand.
Thou hold'st it well. Look how he doth. Thou mayest the sooner learn.
Next, tell me how and when 'tis best to strike.
'Tis best to strike when time does serve. 'Tis best to lose no time.
Then now or never is my time to strike.
And when thou strikest, be sure to hit the head,
The head?
the very head.
Then have it thine. So lie there and die.
And he strikes him down dead. It does have a certain "it's behind you" moment quality to this, doesn't it? It's very pantomimic, isn't it? It's like, so I've got to hit the head, have I? Boys and girls, watch that now. It's nicely set up. I'm enjoying all of that. It's quite horrific, actually. Mucedorus' opening speech of just going, "It's a carnage round here. We're just mopping up blood all over the shop." I mean, God.
Well, he's got to get him on side, hasn't he? You know, it's as he said in the opening speech there at that scene. He does need to he does need to get him on side for Amadine's sake. You know, to get close to her again.
Helen.
But why hasn't he told Amadine who he is?
I think it's better to stay incognito at this stage. You know,
Definitely.
in a moment, if he doesn't, then I'll be disappointed. But I think he wants to avoid her getting excited. You know, keep everything mellow. Keep everything mellow.
Yeah, how much time has passed? Because there he is, settled into this household. Cannibalism and murder going on all around. And who is Amadine sleeping with? I'd like to know.
Well, I'm going with, you know, it's
Nobody
it's all very distant. You know, she's so beautiful and wonderful that he can't, you know,
He can't get it up.
yeah, well, he couldn't get this cudgel up, so maybe, you know.
Yeah,
exactly.
fair enough.
In fact,
That's
we could literally have it deflate as a cudgel when he goes to a striker earlier. So make that a whole thing. I don't think it fits within the tone of the story.
No, but you know.
But it's a good point.
To me.
Other thoughts before Lynn?
Yeah, I think the other reason that perhaps Mucedorus doesn't reveal himself is that he wants a chance to question Amadine about her love for the shepherd when she doesn't know who he is. So he, you know, it's the testing.
Oh, yes, the testicles.
And he does ask her, you know, so tell me your story. And she says, oh, I was in love with this worthy shepherd. So he gets to hear that she really does love him when she has no motivation to dissemble. So, which is which is really super common in comedy, that the someone confesses their love to their love, not knowing that it's their love they're talking to.
Yeah. Okay, we haven't finished the scene, so we will return at the moment of the murder. You know, nice cheerful murder that it is. So Mucedorus has struck down Bremo dead.
A death, no doubt, according to desert, or else a worse, as thou deservest a worst.
It glads my heart this tyrant's death to see.
Now, lady, it remains in you to end the tale you had lately begun, being interrupted by this wicked wight. You said you loved a shepherd?
Aye, so I do, and none but only him, and will do still as long as life shall last.
Tell me, lady, sith I set you free, what course of life do you intend to take?
I will, disguised, wander through the world till I have found him out.
How if you find your shepherd in these woods?
Ah, none so happy then as Amadine.
In tract of time a man may alter much. Say, lady, do you know your shepherd well?
And he discovers himself.
My Mucedorus, hath he set me free?
He hath set thee free.
And lived so long unknown to Amadine?
Aye, that is a question whereof you may not be resolved. You know that I am banished from the court. I know likewise each passage is beset, so that we cannot long escape unknown. Therefore, my will is this, that we return right to the thickets, to the wild man's cave, and there a while live on his provision, until the search and narrow watch be past. This is my counsel, and I think it best.
I think the very same.
Come, let's be gone.
Ah, but enter the clown, who searches and falls over the wild man, and so carries him away.
Carries him away.
Soft, sir. Are you here? Pot's on you. I was like to be hanged for not finding you. We would borrow a certain stray king's daughter of you, a wench. A wench, sir, we would have.
A wench of me? I'll make thee eat thy sword.
Oh, Lord, Nathan, you're so lusty, I'll call a cooling card for you. Oh, master, come away, quickly.
Okay, before Segasto enters, which is literally about to happen, I think we should just talk about the body disposal scene that seems to happen. Is that how does that function? Is that a misplaced element of there, or is there business, or how do we think that goes? I mean, we don't need to talk about the unfortunate he disclosed of himself stage direction that reads somewhat wrong. It's really interesting how he's just struck down Bremo and turns and goes, so the story you were telling me about the shepherd you loved, oh no, ignore him, I'll just throw a cloak over that. Tell me more about the shepherd.
What worries me is that they're going to live on these Bremo's provisions, which, as far as I can tell, is human flesh.
Well, once you got a taste for it,
Perhaps he's also got nuts and fruit as well.
Or game, deer and whatever.
He'll kill anything. He's probably got a very well-stocked larder. Sascha.
Also, just kind of briefly getting back to the body disposal thing. One, sorry. Well, I don't know why it popped into my head, but I've seen this happen on stage a couple of times. If you get a clown like that who does the stereotypical trip over the body, there's one or two things that can happen on stage with this one. You can either do a traditional thing, which I did see once done in the Globe for a show years ago, and that is the body was literally kicked into the hatch down in the hove, down on the stage, so that the guys underneath the stage then caught him. But another way of doing it, which I've also seen done, and it can be hilarious, depending on whether the clown is a strong man or has some very strong comic timing, we then go into panto-esque mode, trips over, does the stumble, double take, then, if he's strong enough, pick him up, throw him over the shoulder, off stage, back on again as if nothing had happened. It's making a show and dance of it.
Stephen first, then Lynn.
Well, just to add to that, really, I think one of the ways you do it is you would have a long and complicated and very physical disposal of the body, completely oblivious that somebody is standing there. And then you come back on to exactly the same spot and then suddenly notice them.
Yeah. I don't know, are the others just standing there pretending to be a tree? He just misses them. But yeah, I like that. Lynn, you were going to say something.
No, I actually didn't have anything to say.
Oh, right. Helen.
It's possible that the clown is part of a larger search party. All crying, because presumably he's not entirely alone, or even Rumbelo. But
he's on the other side.
But I mean, there may be more than the clown enters here, and the others could take him off, leaving the clown on stage.
I like the potential of comic business in it just being him, because Bremo's, of course, massive, and Mouse is very small as well. So there's huge amounts of potential there. Eric.
See, I was going to say that the way it's written, because, he carries him away, but then are those words like, nay, soft sir, are you here? Like, is that sort of spoken while he's pulling him away? Because it sounds like he's not seen Mucedorus, because like Mucedorus has been walked off, done stuff.
Yeah, I think Stephen's right. I think it's that they say let's be gone, enter mouse, so they stop. He disposits the body, comes back, and then starts the dialogue at Mucedorus. I don't think that's to the body. That first line. I did think that when it was first being said, but then I thought no, it seems to be action dialogue, not movement dialogue. One to play around with. Okay, let's go on with the scene. Segasto enters.
What's the matter?
Look, Master Amadine of the Shepherds. Brave.
What minion? Have I found you out?
Oh, no, that's a lie. I found her out myself.
Thou gadding hussif! What cause hadst thou to gad abroad, when, as thou knowest, our wedding day so nigh?
Not so, Segasto. No such thing in hand. Show your assurance, then I'll answer you.
Thy father's promise my assurance is.
But what he promised, he hath not performed.
It rests in thee to perform the same.
Not I.
And why?
So it's my will, and therefore even so.
Master with a nonny, no.
Wicked villain art thou here?
What needs these words? We weigh them out. Or we weigh them not, I should say.
We weigh them not. Proud shepherd, I scorn thy company.
We'll not have a corner of thy company.
I scorn not thee, nor yet the least of thine.
That's a lie. He would have killed me with his post Nando.
This stoutness, Amadine, contents me not.
Then seek another that may you better please.
Well, Amadine, it only rests in thee, without delay to make thy choice of three. There stands Segasto, hence a shepherd stands. There stands the third. Now make thy choice.
A lord at the least, I am.
My choice is made, for I will none but thee.
A worthy mate, no doubt, for such a wife.
And, Amadine, why wilt thou none but me? I cannot keep thee as thy father did. I have no lands for to maintain thy state. Moreover, if thou mean to be my wife, commonly this must be thy use. To bed at midnight, up at 4, drudge all day and trudge from place to place, whereby are daily victuals for to win. And last of all, which is worst of all, no princess then, but a plain shepherd's wife.
And God give you a good morrow, goody shepherd.
It shall not need, if Amadine do live. Thou shalt be crowned king of Aragon.
Master, laugh. When he's a king, then I'll be a queen.
Then know that which never tofore was known. I am no shepherd, no Aragonian I, but born of royal blood. My father's of Valencia, king, my mother, queen, who for thy secret sake took this hard task in hand.
Oh, how I joy my fortune is so good.
Well, now I see Segasto shall not speed. But, Mucedorus, I as much do joy to see thee here within the court of Aragon, as if the kingdom had befallen me this time, and with my heart surrender her to thee.
And he giveth her unto him.
And loose what right to Amadine I have.
What a barnstorm. And born when my father was constable. A bot's on thee. How dost thee?
Thanks, Segasto, but yet you levelled the crown.
Master, bear this and bear all.
Why so, sir?
He says you see a goose by the crown.
Go to, sir, away. Post you to the king, whose heart is fraught with careful doubts. Glad him up, and tell him these good news, and we will follow as fast as we may.
I go, master. I run, master.
And they exit. Yeah,
Hmm.
that all made perfect sense. And it happens because story. It's yeah. I mean, in the sense, it's the reveal, and Mucedorus, of course, in the original version, this would be the moment when we actually discover he's a prince. You wouldn't have been set up in the 1590 version of the play. So you know, this is the big shock reveal at this moment, and that presumably floors Segasto into being suddenly nice, or you know, oh well, didn't work.
He knows when he's beaten.
Yeah. You know, he doesn't go into terrible vengeance fighty mode. You know, it could have ended with a sword fight and him just being stabbed. In a sense, that I don't know. Would I find that more satisfying?
I would. Well, no, if you think about it, I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. It is a good scene, and it's well written. But there's something that's missing from the scene, and I think it does need something like a sword fight just to kind of up the ante a little bit. You know, fight Sirrah. You know, I fight you, Sirrah. You know that, and until somebody actually goes, "Oh, okay, fair play." You know, or at least have I can't even pronounce his name again. Sorry, Mucedorus, literally showing himself as the dominant winner in all this. I think it's just too easily given away.
I think there's something in the, you know, with rehearsed performance of it, that there is a sort of battle of words and wills going on here that could be more dynamic. I mean, it's really interesting here. Not I, and why? So is my will. The way that some lines are sort of running into each other and semi-rhyming with each other, and the mouse saying the dreaded words, nonny, nonny, no, no, mouse, no. So, but I yeah, you're right. It just sort of just reach a sort of, it just sort of stops, doesn't it? Eric.
Well, I was going to say that if we sort of continue the sort of analogy that we had with what do you call it, like with Blackadder and Baldric and so on, I think this is the moment where Blackadder gets upstaged by Flash, Lord Flashheart, who is just this like really sort of, you know, loud, bodacious character who's like very sort of, I don't know, just, you know, I'm Lord Flashheart, you know, that kind of thing, very unsubtle.
Yes.
Yes.
having revealed himself, he's suddenly, ha!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe that's just like my reading of it, just because you know, Blackadder is funnier, or well, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense for Segasto to turn so quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't at all.
Yeah. I think he's just floored by the royal blood. Helen.
I think there's a possibility of a fight, what they called in the comic Beaugest film, a duel with conversation. If you go from where our wicked villain art thou here, in fact, they could start fighting.
Mm.
Oh yeah, they could do.
Well, the thing is, Segasto logically should just be immediately losing in any fight as well.
Yes.
You know, he's just clearly not up to it. Maybe he should get eaten by a bear.
Now, I think that might be no, but in fact, they could be fighting.
Mm.
And that Mucedorus, that Segasto is defeated both by the royal blood and by the fact that he loses the fight.
So he's sort of there being fightiness, and it's, you know, I am no shepherd, no Aragonian I, but born of royal blood, throws the enemy sword aside. My father's of Valencia, king, my mother queen, that sort of thing, and then have him down. Yeah, I could go with that.
Duel
make
with
it more
conversation.
exciting.
Yeah. If you've ever tried dueling, you can't do it with conversation.
Yeah.
You need all your puff for the fight.
Eric.
I was just gonna say, well, at some point, like Mas says he would have killed me with his Pugnando. I'm guessing that means like sort of, like you kind of punished him at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, the
I
footnote
don't
here
remember
is
that
is
part,
is
but-
not sure as to precisely where to go with it. It could be something like pugnacity, or it could be a term for a weapon of some description.
I thought it was some Italian fencing term.
Could be. I have no definitive answer on that one. Lynn.
Yeah, I assumed it was some mispronunciation of the word pugnacious.
So excellent.
Stoccado.
I had assumed it was a reference to boxing, but I don't know. Maybe it was just me.
Yeah.
Okay, we have scene 14, which is sort of the final scene. It's not, but it's sort of the final scene. So scene 14, enter the king, and this is the king from the very top of the play, not the king we've met so far in this version of the play. King number 1, who will be Alan for the moment, and I probably will step in to be a additional king if there is an additional king in this scene. I'm not sure. Enter King and
Break.
Collen.
Break heart and end my pallid woes, my Amadine, the comfort of my life. How can I joy except she were in sight? Her absence breatheth sorrow to my soul, and with a thunder breaks my heart in twain.
Forbear those passions, gentle king, and you shall see 'twill turn unto the best, and bring your soul to quiet and to joy.
Such joy as death, I do assure me that, and naught but death. Unless of her I hear, and that with speed, I cannot sigh thus long. But what a tumult do I hear without?
Yes, indeed, for there is a cry. They cry within. Joy and happiness.
I hear a noise of overpassing joy within the court. My lord, be of good comfort, and here comes one in haste.
Enter the clown, still running.
A king, a king, a king!
Why, how now, sirrah? What's the matter?
Oh, 'tis news for a king. 'Tis worth money.
Why, sirrah, thou shalt have silver and gold, if it
Oh,
be good.
'tis good. 'Tis good. Amadine.
Oh, what of her? Tell me, and I will make thee a knight.
A sprite? You know, my lady, I will not be a sprite, masters. Get ye away! I'll be a sprite, I shall be so lean, I shall make you all afraid.
Thou sot, the king means to make thee a gentleman.
I shall want apparel.
Thou shalt want for nothing.
Then stand away, trick up thyself. Here they come.
And enter Segasto, Mucedorus, and Amadine.
My gracious father, pardon thy disloyal daughter.
What? To mine eyes behold my daughter Amadine? Rise up, dear daughter, and let these my embracing arms show some token of thy father's joy, which ever since thy departure hath languished in sorrow.
Dear father, never were your sorrows greater than my griefs. Never you so desolate as I comfortless. Yet, nevertheless, acknowledging myself to be the cause of both, on bended knees I humbly crave your pardon.
I pardon thee, dear daughter, but as for him,
Our father, what of him?
as sure as I am king and wear the crown, I will revenge on that accursed wretch.
Yet, worthy prince, knock not thy will in wrath, show favour.
Aye, such favour as thou deservest.
I do deserve the daughter of the king.
Oh, impudent! A shepherd, and so insolent?
No shepherd am I, but a worthy prince.
In fair conceit, not princely born.
Yes, princely born. My father is a king, my mother queen, and of Valencia both.
What? Mucedorus? Welcome to our court. What cause hast thou to come to me disguised?
No cause to fear, I caused no offence, but this, desiring thy daughter's virtues for to see, disguised myself from out my father's court unknown to any. In secret I did rest, and passed many troubles near to death. So hath your daughter my partaker been, as you shall know hereafter more at large. Desiring you, you will give her to me, even as my own and sovereign of my life, that I shall think my travels are well spent.
With all my heart, but this. Segasto claims my promise made to Fore, that he should have her as his only wife, before my council when we came from war. Segasto, may I crave thee, let it pass, and give Amadine as wife to Mucedorus?
With all my heart, were it a far greater thing. And what I may to furnish up their rights with pleasing sports and pastimes, you shall see.
Thanks, good Segasto, I will think of this.
Thanks, good, my lord, and while I live, account of me in what I can or may.
And good Segasto, these great courtesies shall not be forgot.
Why, hark you, master. Bones, what have you done? What, given away the wench you made me take such pains for? Oh, you are wise indeed, mass. If I'd known of that, I would have had her myself. Faith, master, now we may go to breakfast with a woodcock pie.
Go, sir. You were best leave this knavery.
Come on, my lords, let's now to court, where we may finish up the joyfulest day that ever happed to distressed king, with mirth and joy.
Just pausing you there for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Just it's very important that there's absolutely no reason why I just paused you there. Just carry on. Were but thy father, please. Not were with mirth and joy, rather.
With mirth and joy and great solemnity, we'll finish up these hymen's rites most pleasantly.
Whoa, ho, lords! At the first, I'm one too. But here, Master King, by your leave, a cast. Now you have done with them, I pray you, begin with me.
Why, what wouldst thou have?
You forget now. Little apparel to make us handsome. Should lords go as beggarly as I do?
What I did promise thee, I will perform. Attend on me. Come, let's depart.
We'll wait on you with all our hearts.
Our hearts.
And with a piece of my liver too.
And they exit. We go straight into the epilogue. Enter comedy and envy.
How now, envy? What? Blushest thou already? Peep forth, hide not thy head with shame. With a courage, praise a woman's deeds. Thy threats were vain. Thou couldst do me no hurt. Although thou seemed to cross me with despite, I overwhelmed and turned upside down thy block, and made thyself to stumble at the same.
Though stumbled, yet not overthrown. Thou canst not draw my heart to mildness, yet I needs confess thou hast done well, and played thy part with mirth and pleasant glee. Yet say all this, yet canst thou not conquer me, although this time thou hast got, yet not the conquest neither, a double revenge next time I'll have.
Then, caitiff cursed, stoop upon thy knee, yield to a woman, not to me, and from her foes, high God defend her still, that they against her may never work their will.
Envy, were he never so stout, would beck and bow unto her majesty. Indeed, comedy, thou hast overrun me now, and forced me stoop unto a woman's sway. God grant her grace amongst us all, amongst us long may reign. And those that would have it so, would that by envy soon their hearts might forego.
The council, nobles, and this realm, Lord, guide it still with thy most holy hand. The commons and the subjects, grant them grace, their prince to serve, her to obey, and treason to deface. Long may she reign in joy and great felicity. Each Christian heart do say, Amen, with me.
And they all exit. That's the end of the play, or is it the end of the play? It's the end of a play. This is an end of the earlier version of the play during the reign of Queen Elizabeth. So that is one ending. And before we go and look at the other ending in just a moment to see what the later interpolation of the text did, just a few thoughts. I like the way that the moment Mucedorus just mentions he is king, I think he's wearing his habit, and when he opens it, this bright shining light comes out, showing that he is basically, God. So the moment he says in this scene as well, my father is a king, my mother queen of Valencia, just, and because the way the king just goes, oh, you're Mucedorus, oh, right, that's fine. Because it's just like that. There's no evidence presented, no nothing. It just immediately goes, bah. So I think Mucedorus has some magic, shiny clothing underneath his habit.
No, it's the old school tie.
I love Mouse's final line. Wait on you. It's such a terrible pun. It's such a terrible joke. I just think it's delightfully silly.
But he's got several others of the same kidney.
Is it to do with heating your liver with drinking, that kind of thing?
Was the liver not the seat of sexual urge?
It's with the seat of passion.
Yeah.
In some
Fair
novels,
enough. Passion is a politer way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a cheaper gag than that. It's just they said wait on with the hearts and I'll with my liver. I left my heart in San Francisco. I left my left leg in Santa Fe. It's
I thought maybe that was a reference to when a person would become a lord, he'd get like livery, sort of like coat of arms, that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's relevant.
Oh, that's a good thought. Like that.
Interesting one, but possibly over elaborate. Because I think this is mainly intended for playing. Okay, the initial prologue was for a royal performance, and the epilogue was standard issue Elizabethan theatre. But I think this is aimed more at the groundlings than the aristos.
I don't know whether there's a meaningful distinction. I mean, we are dancing between different texts and different times. It's nice that comedy and envy are get their panto flourish at the end there. The fairy godmother has prevailed. Yay! Other thoughts, Eric?
I can't help but wonder, like, that bit about basically Mouse becoming a lord, whether that's like a stab at like how idiotic lords can be, like in the House of Lords, not necessarily current, but sort of that kind of, these guys are not really, they just became lords because sort of they did something that and just dared to ask for it, basically.
He's haggling, isn't it? What he can get.
Pretty much.
And Stephen, the way you're doing that of just going, mention Amadine, and let's see what comes in. I have decided that in my head, Mouse is played by Eric Sykes. I think he's actually a bit deaf. I don't think it's wordplay. I think it's actually genuine confusion on his part.
He could have a really bad attention span.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just
it's very, very clowny.
He's okay, but he's got attention deficit disorder. But he can't stay focused for what? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Okay, we have the other ending, the later ending, which connects more with the other editions. So this is an addition. We're going to go forward in your scripts. We go back a little bit to give you a run up. So Mouse is going to do his little bit of business, but Mucedorus has revealed himself to the king. Everybody's happy. Mouse does his little bit of comic business, and then we cut in midway through the king's speech. I will be the spare king when we get to it. So go, Mouse.
Why aren't you, Master Bones? What have you done? Given away the wench you made me take such pains for? You're wise indeed, Mass. I'd known of that, I would have had her myself. Face master, we may now go breakfast with a woodcock pie.
Go, sir. You were best leave this knavery.
Come on, my lords, let's now to court, where we may finish up the joyfulest day that ever happed to a distressed king. Wert thy father, the Valencia lord, present in view of this combining knot?
And there is a shout within, holla! And enter a messenger.
What shout was that?
My lord, the great Valencian king, newly arrived, entreats your presence.
My father?
Still you, Alan.
Prepared welcomes, give him entertainment. A happier planet never reigned than that which governs at this hour.
Enter the king of Valencia, and Anselmo Roderigo Barracius of wonderful memory, with others. The king runs and embraces his son. Rise, honour of my age, food to my rest. Condemn not, mighty king of Aragon, my rude behaviour, so compelled by nature that manners stood unacknowledged.
What we have to recite would tedious prove by declaration. Therefore, in and feast. Tomorrow the performance shall explain what words conceal. Till then, drums speak, bells ring, give plausive welcomes to our brother king.
And sound drums and trumpets, and everybody exits in a royal fashion. And that's the later ending. Which do we prefer? Do you like the late arrival of Mucedorus' dad, or the just everybody clubbing together and going off for some hearts and liver?
Well, if you're going to keep scene 10, I think you need to have him show up.
Oh, it's one or the other. It's one or the other. But just as an ending, which do we prefer?
I kind of like having the whole happy family together, so all the major in-laws and outlaws are accounted for on stage. I can see why this was interpolated, that one felt the need to have everybody there.
Eric?
Does this then mean that Mouse does not become a lord, or is that behind the scenes?
I think he's done quite well out of this. I think he's done all right.
The first one, it kind of ends with a mouse gag, doesn't it? So he kind of has the last word, and the epilogue is quite serious. So we've got a sort of big shift in tone there. So I guess, it's a great mouse gag, but it's a completely different kind of ending. But it might be worth holding the second ending against the second epilogue, because the epilogue and the ending of both might be doing slightly different work, I guess.
We do have the second epilogue coming up in just a moment. Helen first.
I think it's a question of deciding whether this is the sort of play where the audience doesn't know what on earth is going on until the very end, or whether it's the sort of play where no one on stage has the slightest idea what's going on until the very end, but the audience is in on the secret. And I think that unless it's a murder mystery, the second is better than the first.
Well, I think the only thing that is kept from the audience in the first version is his real identity. And I don't think it actually matters, because it actually comes across as something as a deus ex machina at the end.
Yeah.
I can understand why they changed it. But it was already hugely popular by the time they changed it. Or seems to be reasonably popular. It had the bones. So there's all sorts of things we could say there. Other thoughts? Okay, let's look at the epilogue. The epilogue starts, the first two stanzas are the same as the last one, and then there's a longer epilogue with comedy and envy. So comedy and envy are back up again.
How now, Envy? What blushest thou already? Speak forth, hide not thy head with shame, but with a courage praise a woman's deeds. Thy threats were vain, thou couldst do me no hurt. Although thou seemst to cross me with despite, I overwhelmed and turned upside down thy block, and made thyself to stumble at the same.
Though stumbled, yet not overthrown, thou canst not draw my heart to mildness. Yet must I needs confess thou hast done well, and played thy part with mirth and pleasant glee. Say all this, yet canst now that thou canst no say all this, yet canst thou not conquer me. Although this time thou hast got, yet not the conquest neither. Double revenge another time I'll have.
Envy, spit thy gall, plot, work, contrive, create new fallacies, teem from thy womb each minute a black traitor, whose bloods and thoughts of twin conception. Study to act deeds yet unchronicled, cast native monsters in the moulds of men, case vicious devils under sancted roshets, unhasp the wicket where all perjureds roost, and swarm this ball with treasons. Do thy worst. Thou canst not, hellhound, cross my star tonight, nor blind that glory where I wish delight.
I can. I will.
Nefarious hag, begin, and let us tug till one the mastery win.
Comedy, thou art a shallow goose. I'll overthrow thee in thy own intent, and make thy fall in my comic merriment.
Thy policy wants gravity. Thou art too weak. Speak, fiend, as how?
Why thus, from my foul study will I hoist a wretch, a lean and hungry neger cannibal, whose jaws swell to his eyes with chawing malice, and I'll make him a poet.
Well, what's that to the purpose?
This scrambling raven with his needy beard will I whet on to write a comedy, wherein shall be composed dark sentences, pleasing to factious brains, and every other where place me a jest. Whose high abuse shall more than torment blows. Then I myself, quicker than lightning, will fly me to a puissant magistrate, and waiting with a trencher at his back, in midst of jollity, rehearse those Gauls with some additions so lately vented in your theatre. He upon this cannot but make complaint to your great danger, or at least restraint.
I laugh to hear such folly. This is a trap for boys, not men, nor such especially desertful in their doings, whose staid discretion rules their purposes. I and my faction do eschew those vices. But see, oh see, the weary sun for rest hath lain his golden compass to the west, where he perpetual bide and ever shine, as David's offspring in his happy clime. Stoop, envy, stoop, bow to the earth with me, let's beg our pardons on our bended knee.
And they kneel.
My power has lost her might. Envy's date's expired. Yon splendid majesty hath felt my sting, and I, amazed am.
And falls down and quakes.
Glorious and wise arch Caesar on this earth, at whose appearance envy's struck and dumb, and all bad things cease operation. Vouchsafe to pardon our unwilling error, so late presented to your gracious view, and we'll endeavour with excess of pain to please your senses in a choicer strain. Thus we commit you to the arms of night, whose spangled carcass would for your delight strive to excel the day. Be blessed then, who other wishes, let him never speak.
Amen. To fame and honour we commend your rest. Live more happy, ever hour more blessed.
And so they play ends there. That's to the king. That little bit of arse-licking matching the arse-licking we had at the beginning of the play in the prologue. But it does do a bit more of the sort of the battle of them and one of them being vanquished. and there's some interesting stuff in there. It's very different style. Any thoughts on that epilogue?
I think the second one is stronger than the first.
It's definitely doing different things. I think the first has the advantage of being shorter.
It's more in love with royal power, isn't it? I mean, there's a very, very strong closure in this one, which does go with we get a king in the last sort of 6 lines of the play showing up, so we can end with some kingly decorum. So that kind of hangs together, doesn't it?
Mm. Helen, sorry, I wasn't looking up.
I get a strong sense of topical reference here.
Yeah.
I really, really do. With envies the foul study, hoist a wrench, a lean and hungry Negro cannibal, and the all this description of the comedy, and then somebody shopping him to a magistrate, and the whole thing.
The word restraint as well, because we have restraint of playing, don't we?
Yeah. The whole thing strikes me as having a meaning that is not immediately apparent, which is why for a modern audience, I would certainly go for the first one.
Might do a bit of a mix and match in places. I mean, there's definitely some really nice elements to the second one. I mean, apart from the problematic language about the cannibal. But you're right. There is something a bit opaque about, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I did screaming topical reference to me, and I haven't a clue what it's about. I take it your footnotes don't enlighten you?
Got nothing.
These editors, they know nothing.
They just pretend they do. But I agree, Helen, that this I'm going to inspire some hungry, evil-tempered writer to write a play, and the play is going to get you in trouble with the authorities. It might be one specific text, or it might just be sort of a general threat that that if you say and do certain things on stage that the master of the revels or someone will be after you. And people were, I don't know the date of this relative to what game at chess and Eastward Ho or Westward Ho, the things that.
It's a bit before, I think.
It's around about the same time as Eastward Ho, but it's long before Game of Chess.
Yeah. So, but the threat that the authorities were going to come down on you if you said offensive things on stage, that was present. So that's definitely what's. And then the comedy comes back. It's like, oh, the boys' companies do that. We're adults. We know how to.
Wasn't one of the boys' companies shut down around 1608, something like that?
Yeah.
They got too cheeky. It sounds like satire. There's a sort of personification of satire, which is this kind of bubbling, kind of savage, sort of semi-human figure. And it sounds like there's something going on there, because that had been going on right back to the 90s, hadn't it? They were burning books and stuff. So I think it's a kind of, it doesn't have to be really topical, but it's the sort, in the previous 10 years we've had loads of it, because we had Nash, didn't we, being having a runner, and Johnson being slammed in jail, and all of those things are probably less than 10 years previously.
Eric, I see a hand.
I was just going to say that while reading it, to me, it sounded like it was describing Bremo, and maybe there was an alternate ending that we don't have.
Well, a third one it'll turn into Clue.
Yeah,
we've already seen that Bremo's a poet.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly, because it describes like this sort of cannibal that's like a poet, turns into a poet and stuff, and like I'll give him jests and stuff, but like we've already done that, so like what else can you like add to to this bit?
Okay, we're into extra time. So final thoughts around the room about the play overall, for those who've been here for both sessions and just this half, and just generally what we do with this. I have lots of thoughts about what I do with this. I've got lots of things bubbling away. So we'll start with Sascha. How did you find the play? Any thoughts, questions about it?
Okay, so initially I loved the structure, I love the characters, I love the comedy repertoire that's going on with Mouse and the relationships that are developing, and the weird seesaw. The seesaw element's great. There are, okay, fair enough, there are some bits we need to tidy up, but this strange thought came into my head is with the epilogue bit, because we've been saying throughout, well, since yesterday, that it seems to be this complete battle between comedy and envy. But the thing is, we don't see comedy and envy until the final epilogue. What if there was a way to make the characters of comedy and envy more part of the story, in the sense they treat it almost like a chessboard? So with each character and or each scene, they're planning their next move, and they kind of do the physical theatre thing of treating each character like a pawn, and they basically place that chess piece on the board to see the chaos that ensues, maybe, so that it's not a complete surprise to see these two at the end.
I like the idea that comedy and envy are omnipresent. I think there's, I had a thought to save on the doubling that it might be done like sort of Street Fighter. There'll be a running score at the top, and you get a punt, you get a comedy line in, and you get extra powers, and something bad happens and it pushes. There's some sort of tabulation going on throughout. I quite like the idea of. But yeah, there's a lot of potential in that, in the staging. Stephen, you weren't here for yesterday, so your final thoughts on just today?
Well, nothing very much really, apart from there seems to be a lot more clown than I'm used to. I don't know if the rest of the players like that, but they don't usually offer such a star part for the clown.
There's quite a lot of mouse.
There is a lot of mouse. There is a lot of mouse. It's very dominant.
I can't remember the name of the play now, but I'm sure there's another play which references back to this. It uses one of the same gags. So this could, just thinking theatrically, I think it's really interesting to see how this sort of relative sort of, I don't know, Spencerian fantasy-ish setting offers opportunities that perhaps other kinds of plays, where we have real servants, for example, might not.
I think you're really leaning on the comedy aspect of this play very, very hard, not just explicit comedy, but also in the rest of the narrative. It seems to be that's where you head for. I don't think there are moments of seriousness and lightheartedness, but without being actively for gags. But it's very dominantly trying to get laughs. It seems to me. Alan, final thought.
The character of Mouse, I think, in today's half was probably better, in my view, than it was yesterday. I just did not find what he was doing yet in the first half at all interesting or amusing. And I still think that a lot of his text is there really as a placeholder for probably physical comedy as much as anything else. Or almost an ad-libbed comedy routine. My feeling is that the Valencia court, the three sequences that involve the Valencia court could quite easily go. But I do prefer the second epilogue to the first.
Excellent. Lynn, you again also weren't here for the first session. How have you found the second?
I found it enjoyable, and sort of bouncing off of Stephen's meditation on isn't this interesting? We have a play where the comic character has so much stage time, even though he's the nominal plot is the love plot. And it's not, I'm thinking, actually, there are a couple of other examples that spring to mind. It kind of happened with the Clyamon and Clyamnes that we did last week, that Shift was actually kind of the star part, even though the main plot wasn't about him. And later on, I don't know, probably, a decade after this or more, the Roaring Girl is kind of a similar structure where the audience comes to see Moll, even though the new comedy love plot is nominally the A plot. So this structure happens where you've nominally got a love plot, but the audience comes to see the clown. And an unrelated note, I thought we should probably just talk a little bit about terminology. The word envy has shifted in its meaning a little bit. It doesn't really quite mean wanting what someone else has. It really means more like resenting other people's happiness. So it doesn't have anything to do with jealousy or covetousness. It's more like just sort of mean-spiritedness for its own sake. So if people are confused about why envy, why jealousy, it's not really that. It's more like just like I'm sort of the spirit of unhappiness, of like I don't want to see anybody happy or satisfied.
So malice.
Malice is a good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really useful point. And I really like the Roaring Girl thing as well, because there is something that part is so removed from the rest, just keeps wandering in, and the drive isn't driving the play in the same way. It's there's a good analog there. I like that. Eric, final thoughts?
Well, like having played both comedy and envy on like both sides of the divide, it was kind of, I don't know, it's one of those things that it's resolved with a wedding, but then like you kind of you don't feel bad for Segasto because he's kind of, everything he's done is just like terrible. He's tried to kill the guy. He's tried to kill Mucedorus. He's tried to banish him. He's tried to like pretty much do everything to sabotage him and Amadine. And then suddenly he turns around and goes, "Hey, I'm your number one fan," which is kind of, I don't know. There's part of me going, "Is there a sequel?" But I don't know. Maybe that's just me sort of wondering what on earth is going on in the next encounter between comedy and envy.
Helen, final thought?
Yes, I'm less enamored of comedy and envy or malice, but I can see that they are a framing device, and some people may find them quite useful. They give the play a little more weight than it would otherwise have, because they, here is the working out of a theory, rather than here is a piece of froth mainly featuring a clown. I find the most interesting character is Segasto. I'm rather with Eric on this one. He is not your stereotypical villain at all. He's more of a pragmatist than a villain. And I like him very much. Indeed. I mean, from the moment when he runs away in the first scene, I think, my type of guy. But no, and I mean, the hero, Mucedorus, really, really annoys me. He's like the guy Lacey in the Fair Maid of Fressingfield, Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. His conduct is beyond condemnation. You know, he does everything he shouldn't do, in my opinion. But then I've never cared for heroes.
It's interesting that the framing device does it gives the back and forthness quality that you were saying about weight, and it gives us options in staging. What I like about this play is the options it gives us to the scale that we could do it. You know, we could do this with the original interpolation with a very small cast. You know, it says double for 8. I think you could get it down to less. You could contract this play down into a very neat little packageable thing. Or you could do what the later interpolation does and expand it and make it a much bigger thing. You know, the comedy and envy on that sense can be dropped or kept. So, you know, it could become a very tight one actor very nicely. Or it can, I say, expand into a full evening of theatre. And that just appeals to me as a producer, just going, right, there's lots of options with this play that I really like and excites me. Yeah, there's all sorts of things. Any other final thoughts from anyone in the room? Eric?
Apparently I have a lot to say about this. Anyway, I was just thinking that, like, would a modern audience though go to watch a play that like starts off with comedy and envy, like sort of just because of the exposition? I mean, unless you sort of pitch it as a historical sort of style play. I don't know.
I think we just pitch it as a comedy, and we just go Grand Guignol with a comedy and envy, especially with this whacking great swords or whatever. Alan,
I'm just wondering. Actually, I can't see who you could logically double comedy with, but envy. I think you could double with Segasto in terms of overall attitude.
And comedy's mouse.
Depending on which version you use and which how the doubling works and how you want to work it.
Possibly, although Mouse has had a hell of a lot of screen time.
Comedy with Amadine.
That's a possibility.
Yes, it needs to be a woman.
That could work. That could work.
It's gendered. Female comedy, male envy.
Yeah.
But is it because envy is called a hag?
Yeah, but he's also called he earlier as well.
Is he?
Yeah, it was. I actually didn't mention that the other day. It seems to be contradictory.
I'd assumed they were both female.
Okay. Anything else before we close the session? I've had a lot of fun with Mucedorus, and I think there's a lot more fun to be got out of it. It works nicely for me. All that remains is to thank all the readers, thank our occasional bear, and say goodbye.
Bye.